Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my Daily Dose with Tim. Today is season 2, episode 47. And oh my goodness, I think you guys noticed a bit of a break in between as well. We've been dealing a lot with internet issues in the house here for some reason. Not quite sure what's happening there. Maybe it's because everybody's working from home and everybody's streaming a whole lot more these days now. And our internet is doing the exact same thing with all the different classes and the different sessions that we've been doing. So not quite sure what happened, but it took a while to get everything stabilized. And so now I'm actually hardwired in. It's really weird having been on Wi-Fi for so many years, and all of a sudden you got to get hardwired in to make sure that the connection is stable for a little bit. So anyways, I just want to let everybody know what's happening. However, in between all of this, I sort of realized that there were a lot of questions on this particular topic, on this particular module, because last time I already said that the last episode, it was a bit of a summary on income properties already, and you guys are just insatiable about information and knowledge, and I love that. So I've decided that before you even really jump into that case study, just because there were a lot of questions surrounding that as well. And so I'm going to give everybody a little bit more guidance on that and a little bit more support before that, meaning I'm going to go through a quick checklist with everybody. And that's really as it stands today. And today is December 1st. Oh my God, it's December in the year 2020, where mankind has faced one of the worst and biggest pandemic in the world. And so I hope everybody is safe and healthy watching this. And so without further ado, I'm going to go into it. So today I'm going to first go into the checklist portion. And I think this is something that I've mentioned quite a few times now over the last few months, ever since my Daily Dose with Tim has started, focusing on financial wellness and real estate investing strategies as well. First thing first, though, is that you need to realize that there are fundamentally differences between residential properties versus commercial properties and residential financing versus commercial financing. And so a lot of the times, multi-unit residential, meaning apartment buildings, smaller apartment complexes as well, they, even though are used for residential purposes only, and I'm not talking about hybrid properties, meaning that they're commercial units mixed in with residential units. I'm strictly referring to residential units. However, every country and different lenders, they also have different criteria in terms of which lending buckets you fall under according to their underwriting. And so right now, I'm strictly talking about commercial lending criteria, because the residential side is a lot simpler. And so I think a lot of us know that. And so what I'm going to do is really go over the checklist for the for the commercial financing part of it. And when it comes to commercial financing, a lot of us have also heard about the fact that it's really more about the equity and the performance. And I'm just going to say it's still performance, the performance of the property that matters the most. However, if you've heard some people say that your personal qualification does not matter, I'm just going to call BS on that, because that is not the case anymore, at least in the case of Canadian investors as well as American investors. Okay, your personal financials still do matter. It's just that it is not the be all end all. It's not the only or the final determining factor, because at the end of the day, when the lenders are lending you money, it's the same idea. When we were talking about private lending for ourselves, how much in, how much out, how long, and how is my money secured? So what that means is the institutional lenders are also looking for the same thing. And the most important part about it is, how is their money secured? And so what that means is, as we mentioned earlier during the previous episodes on income properties, is that this is why I keep saying NOI, net operating income, is the name of the game here. Because if you've got a healthy NOI, that by definition, if you remember how the formula works, means that your debt servicing ability is also more favorable in the lender's eyes as well. And so today we're going to break it down in terms of the checklist into two different portions still. The first one is still the asset itself, which in this case is the property. And then the second thing would be against the borrower. So if you are doing a joint venture deals where you are the managing partner, this means that the person, the money partner that you bring on board for the deal, their personal qualifications will matter more than yours. However, because you are doing a joint venture, your qualification will still need to be looked at as well. And so right now, I just want to tell you, if you're one of those people, like when I first got started, you didn't feel like you had a lot to show. And funny enough, even though I was making six figures, I had a couple of properties and I had a nice car and I was living a decent lifestyle. Every time I looked at my financial statement did not look so good because effectively speaking, I did not have a lot of asset. And don't let that stop you if you're the managing partner. Don't let that stop you because, again, in the grand scheme of things, once we go over the checklist, you will understand and notice that your qualification, while is going to be part of the criteria that they need to look at, it is not the determining factor of whether or not you will get the loan required for the project from a lender. Okay, so first thing first, let's go into what color do I want to use? Let's go. I think this is brown. So from a property standpoint, okay, and I'm actually using my little sheet here, and this is the sheet that we've designed for the Trust Your Talent curriculum as well. So from a checklist standpoint, when it comes to the property, typically speaking, the lenders want to look at a 24-month rent roll. Okay, so remember, when we say rent in this particular case, I'm going to change the color here, is basically your total revenue. Okay, you could have more than one revenue streams on that building. However, rent rolls definitely one of the top ones right there. And again, this one is very simple because I'm hoping that when you're doing your due diligence, you are collecting at least 24 months rent roll as well. Lately though, maybe it's because of pandemic, I've heard a few lenders wanting to go up to 30 months, even up to 36 months worth of rent rolls as well, just to see how stabilized the performance of the building is. So that's one of them right there. And then 3 years of operating statements. So this kind of goes back to the point that I just make as well. However, operating statements, this will include a whole lot more now. Very much like when you are designing your own financial statement, or not designing per se. Yes, you can design that. However, this is very much like looking at your financial statements in your current state and then backtracking over the last 3 years. Why is that important to the lenders? Well, because they want to make sure that there is still some sort of growth potential. There is still some sort of growth potential within the building. Remember, they're lending against the performance of the assets. So they want to know whether or not the performance of the asset has already been increasing. And even if it hasn't, or it's been increasing by just a tiny bit year over the last 3 years, it still shows them, it gives them an idea and a picture of what the next few years will potentially look like as well. And this is what they are looking for when they are looking for operating statements as well. And obviously, very much like when somebody is buying a condo unit, I'm just going to say buying for personal use, not for investment purposes, as you guys all know how we feel as educated investors about buying condos as an investment properties. Don't do it. But the idea is that when you are buying a condo unit, usually your lenders will want to go over the annual general meetings or the minutes and the record and all the documents required in terms of how the condo boards have been managing the income and expenses and the maintenance of that building as well. So this gives the lender a lot more clarity on how to do that. And current year, so current year of property tax assessments. Okay, and then number 4, they usually want to see a latest fire department inspection report. This is very, very important because they want to make sure that the building itself complies with all the fire safety codes, depending on where the building is located. Because a lot of the times when it's not, and again, depends on where you are in the size of the building, because this can be a significant cost for you from the acquisition standpoint, because they're probably not going to lend you, or even if they do lend you, loan to value might not be good, interest rate might not be good, and there might be other clauses. For example, a holdback, meaning if you currently don't have it, they might not fund it until you do, or they'll fund a portion of it, knowing that it's gonna take you some time to make sure that you comply with all the fire codes as well. So that is very, very important, especially in larger multi-family buildings, because nobody wants to go into the situation where you might be getting some bad press, maybe knock on wood, if the building catches fire and there are mortalities, deaths involved, and this is definitely not great. Why? Because lenders are like us. They're like investors. They're constantly thinking about their exit strategies as well. So they understand that if there's anything like that happening, the chances of you wanting to flip or sell or exit that property later on is a lot tougher. And as a result, same for them as well, because on some level, they're in it with you too throughout the entire journey. Okay, so the next one would be what we call seller's reports. So seller reports can include quite a few things. This could be appraisal. Sometimes you can have it yourselves. However, a lot of the times in a buyer's market, okay, the sellers might actually have it done ahead of time as well, or some sellers just like to get it done ahead of time, so hopefully that they can ask for a higher price overall. And building condition, whoops, hard to spell. Building conditions, and as we said earlier, environmental. So maybe you don't even have to do that yourself. Well, I'm not really spelling well right now. So that's what could be included in that docket as well. And the next one would be the proof of all major. I mean, it's completely up to you. As an investor, we obviously ask for everything, but usually lenders just want to see proof of all the major expenditures that have been done. Expenditures. This proves that men cannot multitask, because I'm speaking and I'm writing, and a lot of times I end up misspelling things or spelling the words that I'm actually saying instead of what it needs to be on it. So proof of all major expenditures, and just depends on how long they want it. It could be 6 months, could be 2 years, could be 5 years even sometimes. Okay, so this could be receipts, warranty certificates, statement of works for any sort of renovations, roof, windows, major items, minor items, whatever it may be. But like I said, lenders, a lot of the times, they want to focus on just the major stuff, thinking and knowing that as the landlord, as the investor, you're going to be taking care of the property moving forward as well. And also current property insurance. So this is a huge contention point these days, okay? This is a huge contention point these days, because property insurances have gone up significantly across North America, and Canada actually got impacted very, very hugely as well. In some cases, we have seen property insurance on multi-units going up by 800 to 1,000%. You didn't hear that wrong. You did not hear that wrong. I'm going to repeat that again. In the last 6 months, we've seen property insurance on multi-unit residential buildings go up as high as 800 to 1,000%. And so most commonly, I think the average is about 200 to 300% so far, which is 2 to 3 times compared to the previous years, just because there's been a lot of claims that were made. And I think insurance companies are just cracking down on that. However, what that also means is that when you're doing your due diligence on getting insurance quotes, make sure that you do get the proper quotes that you need. And it is not uncommon now at this point that you might actually ask the Investor purchasing a new multi-unit residential building, you might actually have to syndicate your insurance policies now, just like you're stacking loans when it comes to doing creative financing to purchase a property. So just remember, this is going to be a huge point right now. However, the bonus here right now is the fact that the lender will want to see the current property insurance. As of now, I have not heard any lenders requesting to see a quote yet. Okay, so moving forward, last but not least on this little checklist is the current lease agreements. Okay, so I know a lot of people, they tend to ask this question: what's the difference between rent rolls and lease agreements? Remember, lease agreements could have expired already, meaning a lot of your tenants could be on a month-to-month basis. And if you don't renew them, from the lender's perspective, what that really means is that you might not be able to count on the revenue that you have factored into your deal analysis. So they are just doing their own due diligence and doing their own risk calculations as well. And so once again, it's not uncommon that during the negotiation period, during your acquisition period on a larger property like this, you are able to renew your lease agreements before you finalize the transaction and take possession of the property as well. So as you can see, this is very, very fluid, a lot more flexible. And what that also means to some of us is a bit more complicated as opposed to just buying a single family property as well. And this is why so many students, they ask, can I just start with multi-unit? Absolutely, you can. However, are you mentally and emotionally ready for it? And so I keep saying, we want to make sure that you learn how to walk, make sure that you learn how to crawl before you can walk, make sure you can walk before you can run, for that very reason. Or another analogy that I typically have is, when we were little, we were happy with just being in a tub and, having bubble bath and with a little rubber ducky in there, and we're happy and we can play with it for like hours as little kids. However, as we grow up, our appetite grows up because we play with, the rubber duckies, we play with the Legos now. Now, as adults and grown-ups, we want bigger toys like nicer cars, nicer houses, nicer vacations. Those become our toys, or just nicer things in general. Because I don't know, maybe you are a 40-year-old who likes to play with Legos still. Doesn't matter, no judgment. But the point is, you probably are buying the collector's editions, bigger, pricier items. But it's the same idea. It's that concept of making sure that you got your bases covered and you're comfortable with it. And then you can get to that level where, we're conquering fear every step of the way with you and for you as well. So that's the checklist on the property side. And I know I'm running long again. Maybe I should have split this into 2 different episodes. This is why the recent episodes are getting really, really long. So I'm hoping that you guys are still with me here. Okay, so from the borrower side, the list is a lot shorter, okay? So first one here is a 3-year financial statement. So a lot of you guys, if you've been buying residential properties, you're looking at this going, oh, usually they only require 2 years. And it's not so much financial statements. It was very much just your employment letter and your notice of assessment by your tax authorities, as well as all the tax slips, especially pertaining to your incomes and especially employment income. Okay. And then the next one is your personal net worth statements. And so if like I said, let's say if you're in a joint venture situation, then personal net worth statements would be everybody that's involved in the deals, not just you, not just your qualifying partner, it's everybody that's involved. So sometimes on bigger deals, you have a lot more partners involved and they want to see everything, okay? So current investments and assets. So these two, some can argue, are very, very similar. However, it just really depends on how the lenders put their own definitions on what they want to see and what kind of information needs to be included. And more often than not, what they are really determining here between the two is what are the liquid assets and what are the shouldn't say none because everything is liquidable at the end of the day after all is said and done. However, non-liquidable just means that it takes a longer time to liquidate as well. Because remember, the lenders are looking for their own protection when they come through these kind of statements. And remember, this is everybody involved. Okay, so I'm going to say borrowers just in case. So next is your rental property real estate schedule. So what that means is all of your acquisition documents, as well. And what that means is also if you're providing your personal statements, you might actually come with other assets that might include real estate already. And what that means is they also want to see sometimes lease agreements on those. They might also want to see the rent rolls on those. Okay. I'm giving you an exhaustive list right now, just because this is the long list. Every lender fundamentally is still different. If you remember that analogy that I had about walking to the grocery store and going into the cereal aisle, same concept, but just to let you know that what is potentially gonna come up, okay? So next but not least would be your verification. So what that means is you and all of your investors involved in this new purchase can claim whatever you want to claim. And at the end of the day, the lenders also want to see verifications from a third party. So sometimes what this means is your banker or your banks need to certify. Let's say you provided a bank statement of a savings account. You prove that you have $200,000 cash in there. Well, at least that's what you claimed. And what it means is that you need your bank to issue a letter to certify the fact that you actually do have that amount of money sitting in a bank account, as you've stated as well, and everything else. So for example, property tax bills needs to be city certified sometimes, or just a actual city copy. And then any sort of mortgage statements you have on all the other properties as well, okay? And then this usually applies to what we call all major assets. So for example, a lot of you guys may have your retirement mutual funds. You might have precious metals like gold and silver. You might actually have a stock portfolio as well. So at that particular point in time, the lender could actually ask you to get all of your major assets appraised or evaluated, just so that they have that on their file as well. And so last but not least, if you're my Canadian, what the lenders will want is the CRA T1 income tax return. Okay, so T1, a lot of Canadians know that what that means is basically it's a personal tax statement once you have filed, and then your notice of assessment. So for those of you who are watching from other countries, basically this is the documentations that you get from your federal or local, whatever you want to call it, tax authority after having assessed your personal income situation for the previous year. Sometimes they could ask for more than 1 year as well. So this would now be the checklist for the borrower as well. And so you guys can see now, I'm going to go back to the previous list, which is the checklist on the property. If you need to pick up your phone right now and do a quick picture, here is your chance. And so after that, I'm going to do the same thing on the borrower's list as well. Or better yet, I'm just going to type it out in the comments box as well. So make sure, for those of you who are not watching on my page here, make sure you come back. And also, these videos are now getting published onto YouTube too. So I'm going to put the link down there for everybody, just in case it's a lot easier for you guys to subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow it that way. If not, the easiest way for you to get access to all the daily dose materials. And a lot of times I do add extra comments, and that all goes into the Facebook page that I have. And it's just facebook.com/the Tim Tsai. You know, even I do that. A lot of people, when they spell my name, they type too fast. Instead of Tim, my name is Time. So it's the Tim Tai on Facebook.com. Now I'm going to go into the next page now if you want to do the same thing and take a quick picture of this checklist as well. So this list at this point is fairly universal because we have applied for financing in different countries, and many of you that are watching already know that we're active currently in 3 different countries that are Canada, the US, as well as the UK. Okay, and so what I'm gonna do now is, because I've been getting a lot of questions before we go into the case studies, and so many of you guys are freaking out, and it's so cute. So instead of making fair market assumptions, what I'm gonna do is really help you out here and give you a little bit more guidance, meaning some more numbers that you can leverage to do the case studies before we go into it in the next episode, okay? So from a revenue perspective, I'm just gonna say, remember, this is a 14-unit building, as we said in the last episode, okay? And the average rent right now is $710 per unit per month. Remember, what I'm not doing here is telling you if it's all studios in all 14 units, if it's 1 bedroom, 1 bath, or if it's 2 bedroom, 2 bath, or 2 bedroom, 1 bath. It doesn't matter. The average rent per unit per month right now is $710, and I'm just gonna tell you with the upside, okay, of going up to 760 per month. Just gonna tell you that. So this is number 1, rent. Number 2, just thought to make it a little fun, because I keep saying it's not about just the rent rolls, it's about overall revenue streams. So there's also laundry already in this building, and it's been collecting about $120 per month. And last but not least, there is a vending machine in this building, okay? There's a vending machine in this building, and we're going to say this vending machine is, ooh, wrong color. Let's go back and stay consistent there. This vending machine is spitting out $395 per month on average. Some month could be 200, some month could be 600, depending on what you're putting in there. By the way, a side note, because this kind of reminds me of one of the students that I had, because they really liked the vending machine idea, so they ended up going to get vending machines, and somehow, I don't know why, they decided that in their vending machines, they were going to sell cigarettes. I don't even know if the local bylaws approve that, but that's a different story. However, this is a few years ago now. It just reminds me of that. If you have a building where in your leases, you don't want your tenants to smoke, why would you sell, even if it's spitting out extra money, okay? Even if it's spitting out extra money for you and you're making money, why would you decide to sell cigarettes in your vending machine if you do have one? So just think about it. So I know a lot of people like the vending machine idea, and it's another income stream. It's another business venture on its own, and it's very complementary if you have a real estate portfolio. However, just think about what you want to sell in there, because what I've also heard is, well, people selling gums, for example, in their vending machines, and then all of a sudden they find chewed up gum on common area carpets, so that's not great. So just remember, like, have a think over what kind of items you want to put in your vending machines if you are actually putting them in. Okay, so that is a complete tangent and complete sidetrack. Anyways, I'm going to finish here now with episode 47. If you liked it, make sure you like it, comment on it, and share it with those who you think can benefit from the content. And I really, really appreciate your encouragement and your kind words and all of your questions, because honestly, those are what keeping my daily dose with Tim going, because you can see that I keep on wanting to wrap this up and just give you the goods and make sure that they're you guys are getting content. However, the interactions really taking a life on its own. However, I really do enjoy that a whole lot more, because I feel like we're actually talking to each other face to face, and I'm really able to support some of you real time here. So thank you very much for that. And remember, I will be back with the next few episodes this season. We have a total of 60 episodes. We got 12 left coming your way. And now that internet situation is fixed and a lot better, I don't have to tether through my phone anymore. I'm going to be back here and making sure that we complete season 2 with everybody. So thank you for joining me once again. Have a great day and live well.